Seniors, if you take vitamin B12 every single morning, stop and watch this before you take your next dose. Right now, while you're watching this, there's something happening inside millions of seniors across America that has absolutely no pain attached to it. No dizziness, no chest tightness, nothing that would make you put down your coffee and call your doctor. And yet it is quietly raising the risk of stroke and heart damage in people who are doing everything they think is right. One of the most trusted supplements on the shelf, vitamin B12, is creating danger when it meets the wrong medication. And here's what your doctor probably hasn't told you. When you combine high-doses B12 with one of two common medications, it creates a molecule called homocysteine that acts like sandpaper on the inside walls of your arteries, raising stroke risk by multiple times. Today I'm revealing which two medications are dangerous to combine with B12 after age 60 and exactly how to protect yourself. Before we start, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because I share life-saving health information like this every week. Now type your age in the comments right now. Just your age, because what I'm about to share hits differently depending on how long you've been taking these medications. Here's something worth knowing before we go deeper. A study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that seniors who took high-dose B vitamins, including B12, over an extended period actually showed increased cardiovascular risk under certain conditions compared to those on lower doses. Not decreased, increased. That finding stunned a lot of people in the medical field. But when you understand the mechanism, it makes complete sense. Let me tell you about Dorothy. Dorothy was 71 years old, sharp as a tack, a retired school teacher. She walked every morning and took a handful of supplements every day with breakfast because she had read that after 60, the body stops absorbing nutrients the way it used to. B12 was at the top of that list. She was proud of being proactive. What Dorothy didn't know was that she had been on Metformin for type 2 diabetes for nearly 8 years. And for 8 years, nobody had ever sat down with her and explained what Metformin does to B12 absorption over time or what happens when the body tries to compensate. Her daughter noticed that Dorothy had been getting more tired than usual over the past several months. Not sleepy tired, just drained in a way that sleep didn't fix. Dorothy told herself it was age. When her blood work was pulled, including her homocysteine level, the results showed what had started to become a common pattern. Her homocysteine was dangerously elevated. Her B12 levels were actually high from supplementing. But the two things together told a story of silent vascular damage that had been building for years while Dorothy did everything she thought was right. Comment, Dorothy, if this story sounds familiar. Let me explain exactly what's happening inside the body and why the combination of B12 and these two medications creates a problem that standard checkups almost never catch. The first medication is Metformin. If you have type 2 diabetes, there's a very good chance you're on it. It's one of the most prescribed medications in America for controlling blood sugar. It's genuinely effective. But Metformin has a side effect that most patients are never clearly told about. Over time, especially over years, Metformin interferes with something called intrinsic factor in your gut. Intrinsic factor is a protein your stomach produces that acts like a delivery vehicle for B12. Think of it like a taxi. B12 gets into the taxi and the taxi drives it to where it needs to go in your bloodstream. Metformin quietly damages that taxi system. It makes it less reliable, less consistent. So your doctor sees low B12 levels and says, take a supplement. And you do. You go out and buy a high-dose B12 tablet because more feels like better. For a while, your blood levels of B12 go up and your doctor says everything looks fine. But here's what that blood level is not showing you. It's not showing you what's happening downstream. Because when B12 cannot be properly processed and transported due to the damaged intrinsic factor system, it begins to interact with another molecule in your blood called homocysteine. And homocysteine is where things get genuinely dangerous. Homocysteine is an amino acid your body produces naturally. In small amounts, it's harmless. Your body uses B vitamins, including B12, B6, and folate, to convert it into something useful and clear it from your bloodstream. But when that conversion process is disrupted because the B12 is not being properly absorbed or processed, homocysteine builds up. Elevated homocysteine in the blood does something very specific and very damaging. It acts like sandpaper on the inside walls of your arteries. Hit that like button if this explanation is helping you understand what's happening in your body. A research team at Harvard Medical School described it this way. Elevated homocysteine doesn't cause a sudden blockage the way a clot does. It causes chronic abrasion. It inflames the arterial wall. It makes it stiff. It makes it easier for plaques to form and harder for the vessel to expand and contract the way a healthy artery should. Think of your arteries like a flexible rubber hose. When they're healthy, they stretch and rebound with each heartbeat. When homocyan has been scraping those walls for months or years, the hose becomes more like a rigid plastic pipe. And rigid pipes crack. They don't flex under pressure, they break. In the cardiovascular system, a break like that is a stroke or a cardiac event. How many of you have been on Metformin for more than 3 years and also taking B12 supplements? Be honest with yourself right now, because this combination is happening in people's bodies every single day, and almost nobody is connecting the dots. Now, the second medication I need to tell you about is one that even more people are taking, and its interaction with B12 is different from metformin, but in some ways even more unpredictable. These are proton pump inhibitors, commonly known as PPIs. These are medications like omeprazole and pantoprazole that reduce stomach acid. They're prescribed for reflux, acid damage, and ulcer protection. And they are extraordinarily common among seniors because acid reflux becomes more frequent after 60 as the digestive system changes. But PPIs do something that most people never hear about at the pharmacy counter. They reduce the stomach acid that is necessary to release B12 from food in the first place. Your body needs an acidic environment to break down the protein bonds that hold B12 in food. When you reduce that acid with a PPI over months and years, your dietary B12 absorption drops significantly. A study published in the Annals of Internal Medicine followed over 25,000 patients on long-term PPI therapy and found that after 2 years of continuous use, PPI patients showed measurably lower serum B12 levels. After that finding, what do most doctors do? They recommend a B12 supplement, which makes sense on the surface. The problem is that in certain individuals, especially older adults with reduced kidney function, the B12 supplement is not processed and cleared efficiently. It accumulates in the blood in a form that interacts poorly with the homocyan cycle we just talked about. But here's the part that's particularly concerning. Some patients on long-term PPI therapy develop something called rebound acid hypersecretion. This means that when they stop the medication, or even when the medication is metabolized overnight, the stomach overproduces acid in a compensation response. During that rebound window, the high-dose B12 supplement is being processed in an unpredictable environment. The absorption becomes erratic, and erratic absorption means erratic homocyan management. Some days the system clears it, some days it doesn't. When was the last time your doctor asked you specifically whether you were on a PPI and also taking B12 at the same time? Type never in the comments if the answer is never. I want to see that number because I think it's going to be sobering. Now here's where everything we've covered comes together. The homocyan connection is the heart of this entire issue. Homocyan is one of those numbers that almost never shows up on a standard blood panel. Your doctor checks your cholesterol, your blood sugar, your thyroid, maybe your B12 level itself, but homocyan requires a separate test and it has to be specifically ordered. The Cleveland Clinic has called elevated homocyan a significant and under-recognized risk factor for cardiovascular disease in adults over 60. Yet most seniors have never had it tested in their lives. Here's why that matters so much. When your homocyan levels stay elevated over months and years, 3 things happen inside your cardiovascular system. First, the inner lining of your arteries becomes inflamed and begins to lose its natural smoothness. Second, small oxidized particles of LDL cholesterol find it easier to embed in those inflamed walls and form plaques. Third, the plaques that form in an inflamed high homocyan environment are more likely to rupture unstably, meaning they break off and travel in the bloodstream rather than sitting in place. That last point is the one that explains strokes in people who have no major blockages on imaging. The plaque was there. It was unstable and it broke loose. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic have found that elevated homocyan is present in a disproportionate number of these so-called unexplained strokes. The cause was not mysterious. The right test was never ordered. This is not meant to frighten you without purpose. This is meant to give you the knowledge that puts the power back in your hands. And now that you understand what's happening inside the body, let me tell you what you can actually do about it. The answer is not to stop taking B12 entirely. B12 is genuinely essential, especially after 60. Deficiency causes nerve damage, fatigue, cognitive decline, and yes, cardiovascular risk of its own. The goal is not less B12. The goal is smarter B12. First, if you're on metformin or a PPI, the most important thing you can do right now is ask your doctor to test your homocyan level and your active B12 level. Not just total B12 in the blood, active B12, the form your body actually uses. Total B12 can look normal while active B12 is low. This distinction is critical, and it's a distinction many standard tests miss. Second, the form of B12 matters enormously. Most supplements on store shelves contain cyanocobalamin. It's the cheapest form to manufacture, and it requires your body to do several conversion steps before it can be used. For older adults on metformin or PPIs, those conversion steps are often compromised. The form called methylcobalamin bypasses most of those steps. It's already in an active usable state. Research published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that methylcobalamin raised functional B12 levels more reliably in older adults than cyanocobalamin at equivalent doses. Third, the dose matters more than most people realize. High-dose B12 supplements in the range of 1,000 to 5,000 micrograms daily are commonly sold and commonly taken, but the body can only absorb a small fraction of that without intrinsic factor. The rest floods the blood in a form that may drive the homocysteine imbalance we talked about. A more targeted dose of 250 to 500 micrograms in methylcobalamin form taken with a B6 and folate combination gives the homocysteine cycle everything it needs to function properly without overwhelming the system. Fourth, talk to your doctor specifically about your medication list in relation to your supplements. Bring this to your next appointment as a specific agenda item, not as a passing question as the main topic. Say, I want to discuss my B12 supplementation in relation to the medications I'm on. That conversation alone could change the trajectory of your cardiovascular health. Let me tell you about Beverly because her story is the one I want you to carry with you. Beverly was 74 years old and had been on a PPI for 14 years and supplementing with B12 for the last 5 of those years. Her daughter had watched a video about homocysteine and heart health and dragged her mother in with a printed article. Beverly was skeptical. She felt fine. Her blood pressure was managed. She walked her dogs every day. Her homocysteine came back at 31 micromoles per liter. The safe range is below 15. At 31, she had more than double the level associated with significantly elevated stroke risk. And yet she had no symptoms, no warning, no clue, just a number on a page that explained exactly why her arteries were working harder than they should have been. The supplement form was changed to methylcobalamin. A low-dose B6 and folate supplement was added to support the homocysteine conversion pathway. The B12 was timed away from the PPI dose to maximize absorption. A follow-up homocysteine test was scheduled for 90 days later. When Beverly came back 3 months later, her homoyine had dropped to 17. Not perfect yet, but moving in exactly the right direction. She told me she didn't realize how tired she had felt until she started feeling less tired. If you've been doing this for years, it's not too late. The body has a remarkable ability to recover and rebalance when you give it what it actually needs. The vascular inflammation that homocysteine causes is not permanent when caught before a major event. Beverly proved that in 90 days. Here's your clear action plan. First, check your medications. Are you on metformin for diabetes or a PPI like omeprazole for acid reflux? Second, check your B12 supplement. What form is it? If it says cyanocobalamin, you need to switch to methylcobalamin. Third, check your dose. If you're taking more than 1,000 micrograms daily, you're likely overdoing it. Fourth, schedule a homocysteine test. Call your doctor tomorrow and specifically request a homocysteine level test along with active B12. Fifth, add B6 and folate support. These work synergistically with B12 to process homocysteine properly. What you've learned today is this. Metformin and B12 create a dangerous interaction through the intrinsic factor pathway that leads to elevated homocysteine and arterial damage over time. Proton pump inhibitors reduce the acid environment needed for B12 absorption and create an erratic processing environment that disrupts the homocysteine cycle. Homocysteine is almost never tested on a standard panel, and elevated levels in seniors are a significant under-recognized cause of stroke and cardiovascular events. The fix is not stopping B12, but switching to methylcobalamin at a smarter dose with B6 and folate support. Comment below and tell me if you're on metformin or a PPI and taking B12. I want to see how many of you this applies to. And if this video helped you understand a danger you didn't know existed, please share it with someone over 60 who's taking these medications. Your share could literally save someone from a stroke. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more evidence-based health information that your doctor simply doesn't have time to tell you in a 15-minute appointment. This is not medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider before making changes to your supplement routine, especially if you're on medications. Thank you for trusting me with your health education today. You now know something that most people have never been told, and that knowledge belongs to the people you love too. Take care of your heart, and I'll see you in the next